Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Alex Beitzel. I'm the Content Marketing Specialist at CourseKey. We have an awesome presentation for you guys today. We'll be hearing from Tyler Yeager from Stars Campus Solutions about how to effectively use your school management system to improve outcomes. Before we get started, though, I have a few housekeeping items I'd like to cover. Number one, all audience members are muted throughout the session. So if you have any technical difficulties, use the chat function in your Zoom toolbar and I'll do my best to help you out. Number two, we have also included time for a question and answer session at the end. So during the presentation, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to submit them and we will get to as many as we have time for at the end of the presentation. Number three, this webinar is brought to you by CourseKey. We're a teaching and training platform that works in any learning setting. Right now, obviously, online is very important. And we offer products for online live synchronous courses. We have online asynchronous, like self-paced courses coming soon. We work in on-ground clinicals, labs, and externships, and of course, the traditional on-ground classrooms. So CourseKey does a lot of things, but we specialize in clock hour attendance management with live dashboards, auto-graded assessments, and student engagement features. We're leveraged by over 100 campuses across the country, and we're used to increase their operational efficiency, student retention, and improve compliance. So most recently, we've been supporting a large amount of schools moving to online education in response to the pandemic. And we're helping schools stay in compliance during and after the transition. You can learn more at CourseKey.com, and there you can also sign up for our newsletter to make sure that you don't miss any future content moving forward. All right, so that's the overview of CourseKey, and without any further ado, it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to Tyler. Good morning, Tyler.
Thank you, Alex, for the introduction, and thank you, CourseKey, for hosting me on today's webinar. My name is Tyler Yeager, the Business Development Associate here at Stars Campus Solution. It's my pleasure to be speaking on behalf of Stars Campus Solutions and being able to offer some expertise on how utilizing your school management system effectively can improve outcomes. It really doesn't matter which system you're currently using in order to benefit from this webinar, because you're going to be able to take the concepts that we discussed today, apply it to your system, and even to your school's internal procedures. So by the end of this webinar, my goal is you'll be able to use these objectives to improve the outcome of your school. Referring to the first bullet point, having a report-driven system will help you find areas in need of improvement. And then using those reports will drive those decisions towards improvement. For example, a school might want to improve show rate. Another school might want to improve placement rate, while another wants to improve cash collections. I mean, the list goes on, and I'm sure if we open the mic, each one of you could name at least one area that you would like to improve. The second objective really focuses on building a stronger collaboration between departments. As your managers and your staff work together using the reports, you'll see a closer connection of the interdepartmental efforts towards your goals. So from time to time, there may be some tension between departments as everyone's kind of striving for their goals, whether it's start goals, retention goals, so forth. But utilizing the system, your school management system, will help overcome those tension challenges if they exist. Lastly, think of your system as a member of your management team. Some schools view their school management system as a data collector. They put data in, and when they need it, they simply just pull it out. But it really does much more than just that. So just like your managers, your system has a lot of information to share and to offer. It should be used as a tool to help make decisions and drive the school's outcomes. Following the main areas of school operations, today we're going to focus and we're going to look at a few case studies that involve improving outcomes within each area. So starting with our first case study, American Career Academy traditionally has a 78% show rate. However, over the past 6 months, they have experienced a significant decline, which has impacted their start classes. So how does the school management system help diagnose the problem? There's plenty of reasons why there is a decline in show rate, but for today's case study, we're simply just going to focus on 3, and the first one being representative performance. So they may have a new rep who isn't quite understanding the process or following their process correctly. You might have a rep who's kind of coasting for whatever reason. Another reason could be your contact procedure. There could have been a breakdown in who's supposed to contact who between the admissions, financials, or academics department. The last reason, or another reason, would be packaging. So you could have a delay in your enrollment packaging as the admissions and financial departments communicate to get students ready for their start. Well, for the purpose of this webinar or this case study at American Career Academy, they determined that the show rate problem was related to new student packaging. So here's a quick example of a great report that will help American Career Academy overcome their poor packaging process. This is the start date packaging report, and you just follow my mouse. I'm going to walk you through the various data points on this report. But this report, you typically run it when you have future starts, and you put in the specific start date that you want to run it for and which students are supposed to start for that date. In this example, I have 2 students. You could have 15 students, 20 students, 100. It really does not matter. It's based on your school and how many students are starting for that date. Now, if we look at it, you have the student. I have Reggie Wakefield. It gives me his name or his number. Scrolling across to see the representative, and it shows me a status. It shows me that he's not packaged. Now, if we jump down to Russell Obenkirk, again, number, representative, and it shows me that he is packaged. So at a quick glance, you're going to be able to see who's packaged and who's not packaged. And then if you look at each packaging item, so these are the documents that you require before they can start. You have that listed, then you have your due date, and then you mark whether you've actually received that document or not. So as the admissions representative, who's ever in charge of that at your school, is receiving those documents, you can mark when you've actually received it. So from a management perspective, you're running this report and you're listing, hey, we have these documents, we don't have these documents. Hey, Mary Jones, you need to do this, this, and this in order to get these documents. You can then start dishing out assignments. So that way you are receiving the documents you need so that person can then start. This is extremely important because if a student is fully packaged, there's a higher chance of them starting school. So here's a few strategies that the American Career Academy implemented to not only improve the show rate, but also keep it at a high level. So they decided to do a couple things. They decided to meet regularly with the admissions and financials departments to review this report, the packaging report. Now, what does regularly mean? Honestly, that depends on how far out your start date is. So the closer you get to your start date, the more frequently you're going to want to review it and making sure everyone is fully packaged. They also decided to assign contact tasks to team members to bolster accountability and prevent students from falling through the cracks. Lastly, they decided to step up the number of contacts to students between the time they enrolled to the time they started school. So again, this is just kind of an example of how American Career Academy used their system to find the problem, diagnose it, and then determine the best possible solutions moving forward. So these operational strategies, which you're looking at right now, they're really just a few examples that could be implemented to help any school improve show rate. So jumping to case study number 2, West Coast Culinary Institute was experiencing high attrition with new starts. As they looked into the problem, they recognized that there could be a couple different reasons for this. It could be a packaging problem, which relates to case study number 1. It could be a class scheduling problem. So some students may be experiencing that their work schedule and their class schedule conflict one another. Well, as West Coast Culinary Institute continued diagnosing this problem, they determined the high dropout rate was program specific by looking at a few reports that really would help determine that. So they first looked at their KPI, the Key Performance Indicator report, which shows a summary of their student population and student drops. Now the KPI report does have more information on it than just the population drops, but I pulled a snippet and just so you could see that specific section. So at a quick glance, they can see their attrition rate for the week, the month, and the year. And that's going to be right down here where it says drops. You can see what you actually have versus what you budgeted, then your attrition rate. And then week to date, month to date, year to date. So to dig deeper into these numbers, they ran 2 other reports as well. This chart/report shows the total number of drops for each program within a specified date range. For example, let's say if you want to pull up a report to show how many students dropped by program for the year of 2020. So far, for the first 5 months. This report at a quick glance gives you that, so you can quickly see which program has the most drops. They also looked at they ran the instructor retention report. So this report is a more detailed report showing how many students are completing classes for each instructor. So if you just quickly follow my mouse again, it shows your instructor, student completions, incompletes, retention percentage, and of course some other data points you might find helpful. But this report is extremely helpful because it allows you to evaluate your instructors and ensure they're helping students complete their classes. If an instructor has a low retention rate, you can flag it and then take the necessary actions. So this is a tremendous report to really help initiate the conversation on what needs to be done if an instructor has a low retention percentage. So for West Coast Culinary Institute, looking at their program and curriculum, they asked themselves a couple questions. Have there been changes to the curriculum that are creating learning challenges for the students? Is all the equipment functioning well? Are the enrollment numbers in classes and labs satisfactory for student individual attendance? They also asked, is the instructor motivating students to attend every day? Is the instructor providing individual attention and encouragement? And one of my favorite ones is the instructor keeping students focused on the goal of employment and making sure that students see themselves reaching their goal and having success? So they also started surveying their students, which surveys is a great way to gather the feedback so you can know which instructors are succeeding, which ones might be struggling. But hopefully your school management system provides a survey tool that makes this process seamless. But all instructors really should be evaluated by students, and accreditation guideline surveys are required, so that's one good reason to do them. But most importantly, the most valuable reason to survey your students is to provide that feedback to the instructor that engages him in enhancing their instructional skills. So this is simply just going to help provide a pathway for them in improving what they need to improve teaching wise or instructing wise, and allow for instructional excellence. When student satisfaction is high, every outcome is stronger. So looking at case study number 3, Central Medical Institute had a financial problem as their student account payments were high. So they were struggling to collect the amount due based on the agreed upon payment plan and pricing structure. I'm sure there's a million reasons on why this was a struggle. For example, payment receipts weren't being entered on time, or students were just simply forgetting to make payments or purposely delaying for whatever reason. But as Central Medical Institute gathered valuable feedback from their students, they heard that there wasn't really an easy way for them to go and make payments, nor were there consistent reminders to help the students remember, hey, I have to make a payment based on our agreed upon payment plan. So these are just a few strategies that Central Medical Institute implemented to offer an easy way for students to make online payments. They gave their students easy access to a student portal. The students could download the portal app on their phones, which is extremely convenient. Everyone's on their phones, it's easy. And they were able to make online payments or even set up for recurring payments, whether that be weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly based on the payment structure. Once a payment was made, it was automatically posted to the student ledger, which eliminated someone from your team having to manually post that receipt, which then eliminated the chance of payment receipts not being entered on time or entered at all. Central Medical Institute also implemented an autoresponder campaign that would remind students about the payments due that month. So at the beginning of every month, an email would go out to the students giving them the amount due, their current balance, and then a link to the portal to make the payment. This process that Central Medical Institute implemented really ensured students were being communicated with on when payments were due, and gave the students easy access to then make those payments. So here's an accounts receivables report that really tells you who's late on their payments and how late they are. So again, if you just follow my mouse, I'll quickly walk you through some of the data points on this. So it tells you your funding source. So self-payment, cash payments, however your school categorizes that or calls that. It gives you the student name, the program they're in, and then how late they are. So 0 to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, etc. And then the amount due under each timetable. So this report is helpful in addressing late paying students and making sure they do not exceed past the 30-day mark. If they start reaching the 31 to 60, 61 to 90, so on and so forth, you're decreasing your chances of actually collecting that cash. So being able to run this report on a consistent basis, 2 to 3 times, 4 times a week, seeing which students owe money, how late they are, and then being able to go after the students that possibly might be in the 31 to 60 day range, or if they start passing the 30-day range, being able to target them and try to get the money collected. So going to case study number 4, this deals with Creative Touch Massage School, and they've been experiencing a decline in their placement rate. So obviously this is critical because that's the mission of our school. It's to get students jobs. That's our primary focus. And we all know, besides being able to get them jobs, and that's our goal, it's also a regulatory requirement. So Creative Touch started looking at all the possible reasons for this decline. Has the market demand decreased for massage therapists? Maybe it's difficult for students to get jobs because jobs just aren't available. Maybe a new competitor has gained more traction from employers and they're going to your competitor for qualified graduates. There's really a lot of speculations we can make, but we're going to focus on a fairly common reason, and that is communication difficulties. So Creative Touch Massage School is struggling to communicate with their graduated students and gather the feedback necessary so they could put that into their placement portion. A simple phone call, email, just they weren't being able to get that same response. The response rate was low with those methods. So they really needed a new solution to help gather that feedback. While a phone call, email, extremely important, shouldn't be eliminated, it's a good touch, they needed something else. They needed another solution, another method to help boost the communication. So what did Creative Touch do to help overcome this challenge? They implemented texting through their school management system that had direct access to the placement records. So everything was in one system and integrated with one another. Texting nowadays is so popular. Roughly 81, here's a rough fact for you. Roughly 81% of Americans send a text every single day. Why? It's easy, convenient, and fast. I know for myself, I respond so much faster to text because it's easy. Always have my phone on me. Text me, I get the notification, so much easier just to respond. So Creative Touch not only implemented texting, but they implemented the ability to send surveys via text. So through their school management system, they created a survey, they sent it to the desired recipients. And as mentioned in the previous case study, survey is extremely valuable as a great way to gather your feedback. They created a simple 5-question employment survey that was sent to the graduate via text, and that increased their communication with the graduate, which ultimately helped increase the placement rate because they were able to get the necessary data and put that into their system, produce the reports that they needed to produce. So here's a simple placement report I wanted to show everyone, which really gives a breakdown of the placement statistics by program. Again, just follow my mouse, I'll quickly walk you through it. We have the program listed, you have your total placed, the placement service count, how many are not available or ready for placement, available, so how many are available to be placed, how many have actually been placed in their related field of study, and then percent placed in field to available, so the percent placed in the field, and then some other data points you might find helpful. But this report is just another tool that helps initiate conversation on any area that might need corrective action. For example, let's say the cosmetology program placement rate is less than the required rate to stay compliant. Or let's say it's less than the goal rate that your team put in place. This report's going to reveal that information so your team can then take the necessary steps on getting the placement rate back up to where it needs to be. So this is just one variation of a placement report. I know for our system we have several other placement reports out there, but your system should be able to produce data points very similar to this one that allows you to effectively analyze student job placement data. Okay, so jumping to our last case study, and it's with Long Island Academy, and they were struggling with compliance reporting. And compliance reporting can be a nightmare for some schools. And that was the case with the team at Long Island Academy. They have been struggling to gather the necessary data required for compliance reporting. Well, there's really a couple different reasons for that. You can have a small staff, you can be entirely paper-based, but with Long Island, they were using a couple different systems to track all of their data. They were using Salesforce for leads, Excel for grades and attendance, QuickBooks for financial tracking, and Access for job placement. So while it was getting the job done, they really spent a lot more time trying to compile the data together and then report against it. iPads in particular was a complete nightmare for them. And they spent so much more time than really what they should have been spending if their data was all in one system. So what did Long Island Academy do? They solved their difficulty with compliance reporting by implementing a system that covered all areas of operations. They also integrated their school management system with other systems so that the data ultimately goes into one place. For example, integrating with CourseKey, so the attendance that they gather seamlessly goes into your SIS, so you can then report against it. Or if you have a learning management system, being able to integrate with your learning management system, or integrate with your financial aid processing company if you have one. So the data is seamlessly going into one place for you to be able to report against that at a later date. So even with a small staff, a school management system will help solve this problem. The data needs to be inputted somewhere, so why not put it into a system that will produce you the results within seconds? I've had the opportunity to really chat with several schools, several Title IV schools that are using multiple systems to track their data. And their biggest complaint and their biggest struggle is how difficult it is for them when it comes to reporting. They tell me that iPads takes weeks and they spend so much time trying to gather that data. And they wish that if there was a system that they could put it all in one system and within a few clicks they have the necessary reports. My response to them is that's not wishful thinking. That's reality, and that's what you should be doing, just like Long Island Academy started implementing. So there are really so many different compliance reports out there, and instead of showing you one specific example like I did with my other case studies, I decided to list out a few that I know you're familiar with or at least have heard of. So here are a few compliance reports that every system should have to help make reporting easier. The data points that these reports require should be in your system. Some way or the other, it should not be difficult to produce these reports and get the data needed. Reporting is key for any area of operation, but when it comes to compliance, knowing your data is accurate and reporting is easy will help reduce the number of sleepless nights you might have worrying about this challenge. So that does wrap up my case studies for today. And just in summary of everything we discussed, these case studies were just small samples of the various challenges that you might be facing. So my goal really was to help you see how your system can not only help with the problems that I mentioned, but help you think outside the box and see how your system can be utilized to its fullest capacity that really will help resolve other challenges. So I want you to think about and even do the following. Talk to your school management system. Tell them the areas that you might be struggling with and ask for solutions. Tell them the challenges that you're facing. You might learn a few things about the system that you really had no idea it could do. They might have a feature or report that you were unaware of. They might have some experience in operating schools, and they might be able to put themselves in your shoes and know exactly how you're feeling because at one point they were in your situation and they could offer expertise on how they overcame that exact same challenge. So talk to your system and see what they have to say. Secondly, offer suggestions. You are in the daily grind every single day, and you might think of a feature, you might think of a report, you might think of something that could possibly help you with your responsibilities. Do not hesitate to put in a suggestion and tell your system that here's how it would be beneficial if they added this type of feature or report or whatnot. And if your system's smart, they're going to listen to those suggestions and they're going to base their roadmap off of those suggestions, because ultimately your system is here to help make you successful and make your job easier. And hearing the people who use it every day and hearing their feedback on what could be better, it's extremely valuable. So offer your suggestions to your system. Do not be shy about that. Lastly, utilize your system to build continuity, communication, and success with your team. That area has always been crucial. But as we continue, as we worked in the past couple months as in a virtual environment, and I believe we're going to continue working that way, yeah, things are going to start opening back up again. But the virtual environment, and a lot of people agree with me on this, that the virtual is going to become more and more popular. So this area has been even more crucial, ensuring that you utilize your system to build communication and continuity within your team. Your system should be able to bring people and your staff together. For example, if your accounts receivables report is out of control, your accounts receivable is extremely high, The benefit of the systems, it's going to tell you that. It's going to kind of initiate the conversation. Now, the system's not going to tell you how to directly handle that situation or what's the next step you should do. And those next steps is key to improving or decreasing your accounts receivables. But nonetheless, you would have not known that unless you had a system in place that could accurately run these reports for you and give you that data. So it's a great spark. It initiates the conversation and it gets the ball going for making those improvements. So being able to offer easy data sharing between departments is going to help keep everyone in communication with everyday responsibilities, operations, and challenges. So that does conclude this webinar. Alex, before we jump to the questions, I'm just going to quickly, again, thank everyone for their time, 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long I spent on this presentation. Do appreciate your time. I know everyone's busy. Hopefully you're able to take maybe 1, 2, or 3 points from this that you can start applying to your system right now, which will then ultimately help improve the outcomes at your school. So Alex, with that being said, I'm going to flip it over to you and see about any questions that might have come in.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, like Tyler said, we're going to open it up for question and answer right now. So feel free to submit any questions or comments that you had during the presentation using the Q&A function at the bottom. Tyler, while they're doing that, I have a question for you here. It really seemed to me like utilizing your school management system effectively, obviously you have to drill down into the data that is oriented with whatever problem that you have. And I'm wondering, can you speak a bit about how important like integration is between your systems so that it spares you so much manual work that you'd have to check all the different systems that you have?
Absolutely. Integrations is just crucial because it's exactly what you said. It eliminates that manual data entry. I mean, let's take Korsky for an example. You guys have a great product, and schools using your product are they're tracking the attendance because you have that GPS-based attendance tracking. Well, schools aren't going to want to take the attendance in Korsky and then have to put it in stars. And that's just duplicate work that doesn't really make sense. So integrate with Korsky. So that way, whenever you track that attendance or record that attendance, it just automatically gets synced into stars. So instead of them having to go to Korsky for attendance reports and then goes to stars for some other type of reports, they can just go right to stars, go right to their SIS, and they can run the necessary reports. It's the same thing with financial aid processing. If you have a financial aid processing company, being able to integrate that with your SIS so the data just seamlessly transfers over, whether it be disbursement, payments, awards, so on and so forth. It just eliminates your team from spending more time than really what they need to. And then plus it just ensures everything is going into one system. So you don't have to access multiple systems to get the data that you need.
Right. Okay. Along the same lines, I'm wondering about really keeping the entire team on the same page, and that has to do with sharing the reports that are generated and the information that's gathered. And I'm wondering if you maybe tell me this, if the school management systems out there have like an automated option to where you can say, oh, I'm going to send this this weekly report to this list of emails from my staff so that everyone gets this report at the same time, and that eliminates the need for me to have to send an individual email to everybody who's concerned with the data. Like, do school management systems have that capability?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't really speak on behalf of other school management systems, but our school management system does have that capability. So we have a really cool reporting tool. It's what we call our query reporting tool that provides a lot of flexibility with reporting. And one of the functionalities in that tool is the ability to send out scheduled reports via email. So let's just say every week you want your admissions director to receive your admissions report, your financial director to receive your accounts receivables report. So having that schedule set up, you might every Monday you want them to receive that report. For us, we can do that. Now, what other systems can do, I can't necessarily speak on that. But for us in particular, yes, that is possible.
Okay. One more thing that you said that I had a question about was really getting more familiar with your technology and kind of understanding the full capabilities of your technology stack and leveraging that to take full advantage of it. And I'm wondering if for someone who has a school management system in place and they want to learn exactly more about the capabilities and go more in depth into what they can do with it, how would you suggest approaching that? Would you go to a website? Would you try to get someone on the phone? What do you think?
I would say take a couple steps. For us, keep an eye out for a lot of the communications we send out, because when there's a new feature out there, we send email communications. If you're already a STARS client, then we actually post a message out on your home screen of your in STARS, so that way you can see that, hey, new features. But yeah, most importantly, being able to learn those new features is getting in contact with your system, getting in contact with, for example, STARS, and saying, hey, notice you had a new feature. Can you teach me how to use it? Or, hey, what new features you might have come out with in the past 6 months that I might not know about? So I would say, absolutely pick up the phone, sending an email, just getting in contact with them and letting them explain to you. I know for me personally, when people reach out to me, I love that chance to be able to tell them, saying, yeah, great question. Here's what we came out with in the past 6 months. Here's how you can use it. When do you want to start implementing it? And that's what I would highly encourage, is keep an eye out for those communications via email. If they have the opportunity to post any messages out on your actual SIS system, and then just get in touch with them via email and phone, via email or phone, and see if you could set up a time just to go over any new features that might have come out.
Gotcha. That sounds good. So I'm going to give the audience one more chance to submit any last second questions that we have for Tyler. Tyler, I just want to say thank you for spending time to deliver this presentation to us. It's really interesting learning about the different case studies where schools have used their school management system to identify problems and then come up with solutions to about how to tackle those issues. So we don't have any more questions here at the moment, so I guess we'll wrap up there. Tyler, is there anything you wanted to end with on your end?
Nope, that's everything. Again, just thanking everyone for their time. And if you have any other questions for me, there's my contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out. If you want to chat new features, if you want to chat capabilities, if you want to chat potential integrations or current integrations we might have with other systems, by all means, please reach out, and I'll be more than happy, to spend some time going over that.
Very cool. And yes, thanks to our audience for being with us today. We hope everyone's staying safe, staying healthy. If you'd like to learn more about Korsky, you can go to korsky.com and you can sign up there for our newsletter to make sure you don't miss any more content moving forward. Thanks again, Tyler, for taking the time to be with us today to deliver the presentation.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. Till next time.
Bye-bye.